Welcome back to another video, guys. SmackYoG here. Today, I want to talk about the Overwatch spotlight that took place last week. Now, I want to start off by saying I was pleasantly surprised by how much they were doing and the initiative they took. I'm a fan of Overwatch first and foremost. Without that game, I would have never played Marvel Rivals. With that being said, taking a look at the spotlight, the devs at Overwatch cooked. They brought in a ton of features. The new perk system I think is amazing. It adds a touch of complexity to the mix to freshen up gameplay and increase the variety of playstyles for every single character. They made the stadium game mode, which is going to be awesome to see. I love that they finally added a competitive skin being the Galaxy weapon skins. Not only that, but they previewed the new hero Freya and the next one to come afterwards. And finally, they brought back the loot boxes. Now, all that sounds great and fine, but let's not forget to mention how many times the dev team at Activision Blizzard lied to the supporters. The whole premise of making Overwatch 2 a sequel was to introduce a story-driven campaign mode on launch. This was a promise that turned into a postponed addition to the game, which then became episodes you had to pay for, and have now been removed from the game altogether. This was a huge promise that, without it, makes no sense to make Overwatch into a whole new game. All these assets that were meant to be in the campaign mode with a skill tree are just now being implemented into the game in the stadium mode. Taking away loot boxes just to give them right back makes no sense. I love the loot boxes. I never paid for any, but it was fun to open up and have a huge amount to go through. The perk system I'm actually a fan of, which in my eyes will directly compete with the Marvel Rivals team up synergy mechanic. This was one of the most over-promised games that under-delivered, but it had no competition to go against it. We saw Paladins fall to the hero shooter behemoth. Games like Concord couldn't even stand a week in the market space. There was just no need for another hero shooter, and if the game was even made, it did nothing better to improve on Overwatch, and was just not big enough to compete even if it did. Overwatch had no competition, which leads me to my next point. As soon as Marvel Rivals comes out, it completely dominates the market space. Once the fans meet the new developers at NetEase, they all go into a new relationship with them. Overwatch completely falls off the map. Once being a gaming titan, it's now struggling to keep up with Rivals. Not to mention, Rivals came in with zero promises and over-delivered. They cooked with a launch roster of 33 heroes, a competitive mode, constant developer updates, good balance patches that don't completely nerf heroes, but instead, everyone's busted in their own right. The battle pass system is amazing and if bought, can be returned to and completed at any time. They have a constant influx of new heroes. All these good things can be said about Marvel Rivals, but Overwatch? No. Overwatch is jealous. They can't stand to see their supporters move on to another game. All the promises of being better they once said just to keep us around are only now being put to use. Once the competition came into play, that's all Overwatch cared about. They decide to now finally love bomb us after losing us to another game. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm actually very interested to see how everything works out for Overwatch. I'm not sitting here hating on the game. I think the choices they're now making are in the right direction, but are so awfully late. I think Overwatch still has a chance for a revival, and I don't think it's actually going anywhere anytime soon, but it can make a comeback. I don't believe, however, that it can beat rivals, but I think the competition was extremely needed. I want to see both teams at Overwatch and Rivals succeed, constantly pushing each other to do better. The thing with Overwatch is that they never had competition, so there never was any need to improve. Their false promises were swept aside as they realized that people will continue to play their game regardless of them fixing it or not. There was essentially nowhere else to go in the hero shooter space, so Overwatch never had anything to worry about. I'm just upset it took them all this time to improve, only after being put in a competition with rivals and having lost horribly. Just wrapping up this video, I don't hate Overwatch. I love both games and Overwatch is finally going down the right path, and I can't wait to see what they have in store for the future. But it just sucks that they're the Toxic X. All these hopes and dreams they sold just to never deliver on, only to do so once we've all moved on. It's a shame they took so long to realize what they needed to do, and should have done over 2 years ago. Well, I'm happy they tried. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts on if you think Overwatch is a toxic X. Let me know what you're most looking forward to in this new version of Overwatch down in the comments. Catch y'all in the next one.